Let's talk about scoring. Last week we put up a checklist, and I just want to share that with you again because these are the half a dozen or so essential things that you need to be doing to make sure it is the Last Planner system, and scoring is actually one of them. And so we want to look at, well, why would we do it? So if you look at, I talked last week about a rugby game. So if you're going to look at a rugby game, it's not going to be much fun if you don't look at the scores. And I found this image, which being English was a bit sad for me. But you can see that from those scores straight away, you can see that New Zealand are outclassing England by a long shot there. 33 games ahead out of 41 played. And there's only been one draw. England have only won seven. And then you can see the last five matches. So that's a kind of like a headline score. That's your PPC score. That's your big percentage of promises completed. And but what you want to do then is drill down and find out a little bit more information. So what is creating those scores? So we call those lead indicators. And in the last planner system, we're going to look at what our lead indicators are. But in rugby here, we've got a whole series of scores that we're looking at to see, well, what's creating those beautiful wins. And we've benchmarked as well. You can see that here the All Blacks are ranking against other international teams, and the areas I've highlighted in yellow are the first areas that I would look at if I was coach to say these are the areas that we're not performing so well. So I mean, they're pretty amazing, but we're only ranking fourth on turnovers conceded, and we're only ranking third on goal kicking. And so, how do we get to rank first? So immediately once you start pulling out more and more data, then you can start analyzing it with your team and understanding what's going on. And I think next week we're with Callum, we're going to talk all about culture. And that is really important for scoring because you want a culture that's hungry for learning about what we're not doing so well without any fear of blame or piss take or anything that's going to stop people wanting to be completely honest about their scores. And so you can imagine sitting with the coach here, we're looking at this information and we're having honest discussions. So this is the Last Planner system standard go round the room meeting setup. And you can see that round one is always looking back at last week's performance and declaring your score. Really important, guys, that everybody is allowed to and encouraged, and in fact, it's mandatory to declare your own score. If you, as the meeting chair, start telling people, "Oh, this is your score," you own it, they don't own it. So that's a really important part of the culture. And then always, and again, this is quite hard, allow a little bit of time to do plus delta. And we're going to cover that in a future session. And that's the continuous improvement. What worked well, what didn't work so well. And that's the magic of how you improve your project's performance week by week. Okay, so let's just have a look at oh, I've got some people in the waiting room. So grab a Delta Sue after this session. I need to make you co-host and then you can allow people to come in. So sorry we kept you waiting there in the meeting room. Okay, so for those of you that have just arrived, we're talking about scoring. We've just been looking at the lead indicators for the All Blacks games. And so here now, what we're looking at is a spreadsheet use, and there's different uses. And then in a future session, we're going to cover different ways of running your production meetings, whether you use wallboards, spreadsheets, or touch plan digital tool. But this is a spreadsheet view. And what we're seeing here is the landscaper, soft landscaper, for Big Bad Warehouse project. Sorry, he's the hard landscaper. He has 5 key tasks for the week. This is their weekly work plan. It'll look familiar to you, I'm sure. So we've got the plan, and then the can is being checked out, and we've still got some last minute constraints. Those last minute constraints are things that you can see the date here. They just are going to have to be cleared this week. So they're marking out and moving the clay, drain layers clay out of the way, highlighting that for this task we need dry weather. So if it's raining, you know, I'm going to hold you up. An inspection, some approval on the soil, and a day works instruction. Arguably, some of those could have been dealt with last week, but they weren't. So the guy from Chris from Acme has said these are the dates I need these constraints, which makes the tasks able to be done. So going forward, what's happened is the all of the tasks bar one have been achieved. So we've scored that as 0, and then we've picked out on a reason for delay. And so we've given, and we'll come back to that, but we've given a score of 80%. And so you might be thinking, well, why is that 80%? It's because it's 4 out of 5. And we looked at that last week. So anything that is not quite done, 99% done, is a 0. And then we want to look at, well, what's the reason for the 0? And the reason for the 0, guys, is those lead indicators. And that's what we're building up our data and our understanding of the capability of our supply chain through those scores. And so we've got some standard scores, which are laid out here, and you get to know them pretty well. So I know that 9 is always about design information. It wasn't, maybe an RFI wasn't answered on time, or maybe we're still waiting for a issue for construction, or maybe we're waiting for some in detail spec information of paint or something else. Requirements from mothers not done. That's going to come up quite a lot in the early days when people are not used to the requirements from others, the constraints, and they're not clearing them quick enough for you. So after time, because a number 2 will come up, then just the culture of, oh, I'll let you down, that's going to fade away. And if it doesn't, then you can jump onto it and look at, you know, why is that not, why are your requirements from others not being cleared? Same with overestimation of what could be achieved. You don't want to be having many of those after about 4 or 5 weeks of using the Last Planner system. So we looked at this last week. 6 out of 10 tasks are 100% complete. 2 are 90% complete. 2 are not yet started. What's the PPC, guys? Who can tell me? No one brave enough? Okay, fair enough. So look at 60%. And that's because those 2 that are 90% complete don't count, they're zeros. And 2 that have not yet started, obviously, are 0. So we're going to want to know what was the reason for that. And then we can start to look at putting in different solutions that are going to prevent that reason from happening over and over again, which is what the key things that create our projects delays are, things quite often that keep coming up time and time again. Might be materials, might be design, might be labor. So these are the standard reasons for delay. This one's available as well. If you want it, just email me. You can put it up as a poster in your site office. There is a magic number, guys, and that's 69%. And this is the study from hundreds of thousands of projects. And you can see that we get an exponential lift when we get past that number in performance and productivity. And then again, if your project's lucky enough to be, or I shouldn't say lucky, has worked hard enough to get into the 80, 90s, you are getting another exponential lift, which means your program will start shrinking. So here's my favorite project, Waterview. And you can see that it took a few weeks to get over the line. So those of you that are not familiar with these PPC scores, these are the team scores. So they're the aggregate of all of the subcontractors, the designers, everyone who has a score aggregated, and the average of that is what we're seeing. Okay, so any questions on how to score or anything so far? And if you want to load things into the chat, we can look at that later on. Great. Okay. So ways of scoring. So we've got the spreadsheet that we've just looked at, and this is our Hobbiton training, and you can see the spreadsheet. As soon as you load in your ones and zeros, it automatically calculates your own PPC. Each one of, if you're not familiar with looking at a spreadsheet for Last Planner, each of the orange titles is a subcontractor. A trade. It might be a designer, the architect's down here. That's one way of doing it. A more common way in the building sector, I think the civil sector tend to like the spreadsheets. Engineers like spreadsheets, but in the building sector, we tend to like wallboards. This is a hotel project down in Queenstown, and you can see they've got all their post-it notes, the beautiful constraints board, parade of trades, key milestones, and then the way they do the scoring is they pull over each week. Here, each are all of the trades, and here are all the floors on the hotel. And so they're scoring that up, and then it gets rolled up into an overall score here. And the last thing I'm going to look at today is the spreadsheet that we, Constructing Excellence, have created, which is available for you. Just email me again. And all of that information gets loaded in there, so you get some beautiful graphs that you can publish. I think we've got Mayor here today. This is Queen Street, a water care project. So they have beautiful wallboards, and you can see the ones and the zeros and the reason for zero. They're great at doing this at Queen Street. They really are onto it. And so here we can see number 2 and number 2. So that's requirements from others weren't done. So there's a lot of number 2s there. Here's a number 5. Can't quite remember what that one is. It doesn't come up that often. I think it's change of priorities. And number 7 is overestimation of results. And that all gets dragged across here. These MVWVs are the swim lanes, and then it gets rolled up into the graphs, into an overall percentage. So finally, if you're using TouchPlan, sorry, Mayor, I think you're using TouchPlan. The Jagoda is using the wallboards. TouchPlan will give you a whole series of high-level information at the front end of the screen, and then scroll down and you'll see the individual trades PPCs. So it's automatically all there. And we'll cover TouchPlan in another session. It's a great invention that you can use your Last Planner with. And so one of the sessions we're going to look at in the future is then your plus delta. So your scores are giving you information that are going to tell you what's working well, what do we need to change. So we'll I'll end the training session there. I'll come back to that in a moment. Stop sharing. And then if we've got a moment or so, I just want to share with you the spreadsheet that I mentioned and show you how that works. And if anyone wants a copy of it, please let me know and just email me. So this is our Hobbiton training project, and this weekly score tab is the only one where you add in your score. So you can see here is week 42 in the calendar year, and we've got 5 items measured per peregrine, and 2 were achieved, and there were 3, number 9, reasons for delay. So once you've put all that information in at the end of the week, which takes a few minutes, You then get lots of lovely graphs. So the one that you'll be interested in is the team PPC score. And guys, it always takes, as you'll know, a few weeks to get above the line. And this project is struggling a little bit, but it's eight getting there. And so this is your high level all black scores for the game. Then you want the lead indicators. So we're going to look at each individual week. So we'll pick week 45. It's given us the breakdown of each of the subcontractors. The purple bar is their cumulative score, so that's key. So look at our Rivendell painting. They may have just started, but they're getting 0 at the moment. Same with Rylock Flashings. Magic One data and the data people doing well, going well. So that gives you lots of information to go and have a look at behind the scenes. You then can look at, well, what's holding us up this week, guys? It's too many zeros. So we've got 19 zeros this week. Last week we had 32. Here are all the main reasons. So we've got a lot of requirements from others not being done. And then there's also lots of other things that we can look at. Individual progress, each of the trades. This is my favorite graph. It's a little bit sort of, you have to look at it. But what I'm looking for here is a trend. And you can see the general trend to the right of the cumulative scores of all the trades is going up. And if anyone's going down, then who's this one? Gimli Metal Doors. We want to know why. And here we've got another one going down, Magic One Data. So they were doing well at one week, but now they're suddenly dropping off. What's the reason behind that? And here's our magic line, 69%. We've only got one trade above that. So all of these trades we want to help move up above the line. So that's the spreadsheet. You just enter data into that first sheet, and then all of the other graphs come out after that, which is really, really nice. Okay, so I have talked for 22 minutes. We can now open the floor for questions. And if you've got anything that's going on for you with your last planner, then now is the place to bring it out. It doesn't matter if it's about scoring or any of the other issues. You've got Sue and I here with all our experience. We can help, and you've got other people here that can also answer those questions for you. Okay, so I'm going to go to James. Are you there behind your black screen?
I am. Morning. How are you doing?
Good, thanks. How are you doing?
Yeah, not too bad.
Yeah, tell us about your last planner system. What's your biggest challenge at the moment, James? What would you like some help and advice with?
Um, well, we finished Mount Albert Grammar School using it quite regularly, and then since we finished that project about a year ago, we've just been in various states where the projects have been small and quick duration programs, which haven't really necessitated the use of Last Planner. We've pretty much been directing it ourselves, driving it ourselves, because there hasn't been full-time resource on the job to establish a weekly meeting, because we've spread all over Auckland doing small relocatable classrooms. That's come to an end now, and we're just doing a job down in Flatbush where we're at a position where we're just doing super subcontractor civils packages up until we start the main build. So a car park, a set of courts, which is barely any other interface, maybe one or two other subcontractors that come in and do short duration tasks in and around the main civils task. Yeah. So at the moment, it doesn't necessitate a full Last Planner as far as we can see. But we're looking to get it established for the main build because we've got a similar sort of teaching block to develop on Ormiston Junior College, similar sort of same size as Mags. So that's, and then when we get into that, the main build in May time, that's when we're looking to get set up. So we're just using this time to establish what we learned from Mags
Hmm.
and implementing it on Ormson Junior. That's the current state we're in at the moment. I think that's why Paul's invited me into this meeting,
Yeah.
just to brush up on things a bit.
Yeah, good. Yeah, because if you don't use it, you lose it, don't you, James? And look, I mean that gives me an opportunity just to talk for a moment about when you do have a really small project or you've got an activity with only maybe one subcontractor,
Mhm.
you can still use the Last Planner system to track your tasks and activities. So, for example, I have my own Last Planner system that I use each week. So I've got my own spreadsheet. It's got a tab for every week of the year, and I just load in all my, you have your to-do list. So instead of having, bits of paper or a notebook, and you'll all have something that you might use electronically. There's a lot of good tech solutions, but I just have my LPS spreadsheet and I load in my tasks and I score it each week. So you can still use that principle of plan, can do, review effectively, which is what's my plan for the week,
Mhm.
what are my constraints, who needs to do things for me, and then scoring and learning from that as well. What do I keep falling over on? What keeps most importantly, what are the things that keep getting moved and bounced and not done? But this task has been sitting on my Last Planner sheet for 6 weeks now. Why am I not doing it? And I
Mhm.
can see that. So with those small projects, you can still use the principles. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, good.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah,
Yeah, cool. Thanks, James.
thank you.
Um, right. Okay, so let's go to Scott. How you doing, Scott? You got a question or something you want to share with us?
Oh, sorry. Good morning.
Good morning.
My team uses it fairly well, but getting the some back end data out in terms of the scoring is not something that we've sort of really delved into. So I can see. Uh, I love graphs, so it's great to see all of the graphs that you were producing out the back end there. So I'll be sending you an email to get a
So
copy of that.
where are you from, Scott? What company?
Down in Wellington.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Yeah. And are you scoring your project even though you're not getting the graphs out, you're still scoring?
Yeah, we do, but it's not necessarily as frequent as I'd like.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And
not every week does it get scored.
yeah, I'd just like to open a bit of a discussion on that. And I find that it is one of the first things that gets dropped, and I'm curious as to why I don't have an answer to that. Do you have any thoughts, Scott, as to when you're not scoring, what's behind that?
I think we run the boards, but then we also run spreadsheets in the background as well. And I think it's when you're busy, you're updating your boards, and then it's transferring the data from the boards back into the spreadsheet becomes like a two-step process. And
Right.
once it's a two-step process, you lose people's ability or desire to transfer.
Yeah, so it's that timing, isn't it? And I think that's where when we in a future session we'll look at the touch plan digital system because that's um takes away that two-step process because as everybody is moving and updating their digital post-it notes, all the scores are happening in the background, and so you just go click a button and there's your report. So yeah, that's a good answer. Thank you for that, Scott. Okay, well, I'll just open the floor for a moment, and if nobody jumps in, I'll pick on someone. Okay, let's go for Igor. Hi, Igor. Are you there? No. Okay, Zach. Hey, Zach.
How are you?
Yeah, good, thanks. Yeah.
We've only got one. I'm just working at Target Road School,
Hmm.
and we've only got one trade partner at the moment. We're actually organising a 16-week pool plan session with all our consultants and
Beautiful.
new trade partners that we're letting in a couple of weeks. So at the moment, it's quite steady going with Last Planner, just
Yep.
consistently on the Fridays. Several trade partners come in. They're reacting to the scoring quite well.
Good.
It's quite easy when there's just one trade partner.
Yeah.
Not much coordination needed. The coordination's been more in terms of the consultants. We have had them in a couple of weekly planning sessions, but not so much. But because we're a design and build, it's been quite important to have them both in the rooms when we've needed them. But like I said, it's quite easy with just one trade partner in the civil package and working with the consultants. And it's working quite well. We're using the spreadsheets in this the CPP form as well. That's proved quite useful in outlining the make ready needs, and it's not something that I've really touched on before, and it makes it quite obvious for all of the trade partners and the consultants to realise what they need and what we need them to do and when we need them to do it by.
Yeah.
So that proved really useful, that form.
Yeah. Okay. So the CPP form, can you just tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, so it starts by outlining the week ahead and any make ready needs that you need, or it outlines who needs to do any works or submit drawings or anything for you to be able to do the task.
Yeah.
And then in the table down the bottom, it does a 5-week look ahead, which is a broader outcome of what's planned for the next 5 weeks, and then any make ready needs that you have in there. So it's allowed us to look ahead, even though we've done a lot of rescheduling because of consenting issues.
Mm-hmm.
It's allowed us to use that to also back on any EOT claims or advance notice of delays to clients, trade partners, because we have all of that as evidence as well. So it's quite obvious where the delays are coming from, what's causing them, and who's causing them.
Right.
So it's also helped in that realm of a paper trail, really.
Yeah. And that CPP standing for
Combination production plan.
Right. Okay. And Zach, is that something you're willing to share with other people?
Yeah, I don't have a digital copy.
It's okay.
But I do have a paper copy.
Yep.
Yeah, so like for instance, on this one, the building platform build up, the requirements that we had was just same from the trade partner, and then trenching, we had a whole bunch of requirements that we needed from the consultants in terms of confirmation of water supply, and then we found some asbestos on site.
Yeah.
So then we need an ARCP for approval, and then that helped us pull all the constraints out and any requirements from others. And then it also outlines like the day that it needs to be done by. So the week prior, everyone knows that week exactly what's required of them by that day. And I've done 9 of these, and every time we've had it the day before, if not earlier. So
fantastic. So that's that beautiful clarity. So that's really helping lift your scores up. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And it's like a 6-week look ahead, basically a plan for everyone involved to see what we're doing and what they might need, and then it helps with RFIs and everything. It's definitely something I haven't used before, but I'll definitely use it going forward.
So, hey, look, if you're happy to, the spirit of this boot camp is that we're all, like in health and safety, we're all working together to try and lift our performance and our profitability in these tough times. So if you're happy, Zach, to email me a PDF copy, I'll then share that with everyone. Sounds like a really great tool that you've developed there. Thank you. Okay, so I've just got a couple more minutes. I'm going to go to Januska. Hi.
Hi,
Can you just tell us where you're from?
I'm from down here. Actually, I'm a planning engineer. So I have not those.
Oh, we're just struggling to hear you there, Danishka. Sorry.
Can you hear me now?
Very faintly. Maybe get right close to your microphone.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's okay. Yep. Where are you from?
I'm from Downer.
Downer, yeah.
I'm a planning engineer. I did not
that's
enroll much.
Yep.
Yeah. I did not enroll much in Last Planner.
Yeah.
So I just want to have some idea about Last Planner. That's why I joined these sessions.
Yeah, well, you've come to the right place.
Yeah.
Is your project that you're working on, is that using Last Planner at the moment?
Basically, I am enrolled in tenders. I have not engaged with the project in down, but previously I worked in Sri Lanka as a planning engineer. There also we did not use much Last Planner at the projects. Yeah.
Okay. Well, hopefully you'll be using it a bit more later on. Great. So look, thank you very much. So I'm just going to finish by sharing the upcoming sessions. I'll go back to, oops, no, wrong one. Butterfingers. And just talk about where next. Okay. So we have, so if everyone can see that. So for the next week, we've got Callum McCorkadale. So I'll send out a diary invite for that after today. And Callum has got a lot of talent with getting the right culture with those trade partners. And in fact, thank you as well, Zach. You gave me an idea for a future session, which if we can get some consultants along, we want to talk about how do you get your consultants in the room, because their whole fee structure is quite tricky, isn't it, with getting them to meetings. So, using online, using Teams, Zoom or whatever, and things like that. But Callum has got some really beautiful tips and tricks on how to get your trade partners involved. So don't miss that. And then we're going to go into, we've got 5 weeks in April, so we'll do some focus sessions. This is what we're looking at the moment, and then we'll finish off April with just a 20-minute Q&A check-in for those that have issues they want to talk about. And then not to be missed at the beginning of May is Paul Morgan from South Base, who Paul's got a huge amount of experience with the Last Planner system. And he's going to talk about really bringing your project scores up and what to do if your project's slipping. Okay, so anything else from anybody else before we complete today's session? And a big thank you for me for coming along, and do please spread the word. Get the more of us that are here, the more we're going to learn. Okay, anything you want to say, Sue, to finish off?
No, but it's lovely to see some people here that I've seen on sites. So yeah, it's great to see you again and that you're still using Last Planner.
Yay. Okay, well, go and have a fantastic day. Email me with your wants and needs, and I'll just ask you one thing, please. If you want something from me, you've got to give me something, and that's a bit of feedback. So feedback can be a plus, what's working well for you about the bootcamp, a delta, what you'd like to see different, and it could be a topic that you'd like to cover in future. Okay, and the video will be available. I'll send that out to everyone. Thank you very much for being here. Great stuff. See you all next week. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Commander.